Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at a country that isn't just, participating in the 21st century, it's actively shaping it. We're talking about India. But we're going to skip the standard headlines today. Instead, we're going to really deconstruct how this dynamic nation actually operates, using an inside-out approach to see exactly how its unique cultural DNA directly fuels its massive global influence. Okay, let's dive right into this. 1.4 billion people. To put that into perspective, that is roughly 15% of the entire planetary population, all living within the borders of a single nation. And not just any nation, right? It's the world's largest functioning democracy. The sheer logistical miracle of holding regular, freely contested elections on this kind of scale is honestly almost hard to comprehend. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with India on the global stage, then look inward at the 5 features of modern India, check out how that internal engine makes it the world's growth engine, explore its role as a geopolitical pivot point, and finally, look at how it's shaping the 21st century. Starting off with Section 1, India on the global stage. Now, as you'll see, India's footprint today is literally everywhere. We're talking about a massive global diaspora of students and professionals in North America and Europe, alongside deep strategic and economic ties that are expanding super rapidly across East Asia, Africa, and Latin America. But seeing all that massive external power begs a really important question. How on earth do you govern a nation of such vast internal diversity? Well, to understand that outward influence, we've got to look under the hood. That brings us to part 2, the 5 features of modern India. To demystify this, we're going to use a framework by author Victor Bulchin. The absolute core thing to keep in mind here is how India balances a profound 4,000-year-old cultural heritage with a modern political state founded back in 1947. The first feature is extraordinary diversity. India has 15 official languages, over 300 minor ones, and 3,000 dialects. Think about that for a second. Often, Indians from different regions literally have to use English just to understand each other. And yet, despite this massive linguistic mosaic, they miraculously hold together as one unified nation. Which actually brings us to the next vital feature. India is effectively a land of minorities. Roughly 80% of the population is Hindu, though actually Hinduism itself is this vast amalgam of pluralistic beliefs. Then you have 12% who are Muslim, and the remaining 8% includes Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and almost 40 million tribal and neo-Aboriginal peoples. The really crucial takeaway here is that no political agenda can possibly succeed without addressing these constituencies. This demographic reality directly, and I mean directly, shapes both their domestic priorities and foreign policy. Then we've got the urban-rural divide. 20% of the population lives in urban India, driving modern industry, science, and this very cosmopolitan lifestyle. But the rest? They live across 600,000 villages bound by age-old traditional patterns. So why does this matter to the rest of the world? Because India's future and its immense impact on global supply chains depends entirely on these two very different worlds meshing together to solve massive challenges like unemployment, all while sustaining a democratic government. The final piece of Bulchin's framework is, honestly, perhaps the most profound. In India, poverty, spirituality, and modernity mix and coexist completely without paradox. From a Western perspective, that can sometimes be a little hard to grasp, but it is absolutely essential to understand. Indian spirituality is basically the bedrock that helps people endure daily hardships, while modernity provides the concrete mechanisms and the very real hope for continuous improvement. Moving on to part 3, the world's growth engine. Let's talk economic momentum. When you translate all that complex internal dynamic into macro momentum, you get this number, 7%. India is the world's fastest-growing major economy, currently expanding at an annual rate of around 7%, and they account for about 15% of total global economic output. It's a real powerhouse. And that economic growth, it is driving an unbelievable social transformation. Today, India is home to around 300 million middle-class consumers. But check this out. By the year 2030, that number is projected to double to 600 million. 600 million middle-class consumers. This explosion of purchasing power is going to radically, and I mean radically, reshape global consumption patterns for a huge range of products and services. Let's look at a real-world example of this economic gravity in action. Back in 2021, the American auto giant Ford Motors abruptly exited the Indian market. It was a massive shock at the time. It left car enthusiasts totally heartbroken and honestly raised some major questions about international manufacturing in the country. Ford essentially just abandoned ship. But
Fast forward to today, and we get this incredible turnaround. Ford recently announced a dramatic comeback with a massive 3,250 crore rupee investment. That's nearly 400 million US dollars to revamp its Chennai plant for electric vehicle manufacturing. Global automakers realize that with the Make in India initiative accelerating, India is no longer just the world's workshop to test products out. It is the world's growth engine, and they simply cannot afford to miss out on it.
All right, part 4, a geopolitical pivot point. Let's look at strategic influence.
So economic clout inevitably translates to political and military influence, right? And India has always played a really fascinating strategic game. During the Cold War, India was a founding member of the non-aligned movement, successfully testing this sort of middle ground philosophy to avoid being pulled into the orbit of either the US or the Soviet Union. Today, as we enter this highly fluid, multipolar world order, India continues to navigate it brilliantly. It maintains ties with Asian security organizations like the SCO. It engages deeply in BRICS and the G20, while simultaneously forming strategic security alignments with the West, like the Quad with the US, Australia, and Japan, all without taking rigid, exclusionary sides.
And this brilliantly illustrates that multifaceted role. You look everywhere, and India is acting as this dual force. It is a nuclear-armed state with one of the world's largest militaries, yet at the same time, it's the second largest contributor to United Nations peacekeeping operations. It consistently champions global support, having donated over $70 billion in external aid to developing nations since its independence. And locally, it constantly works to revive regional unity through organizations like SAARC and its Act East policy. It's an absolute heavyweight acting as a force for stability.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Shaping the 21st Century.
We've talked a lot about the hard economic and military power, but looking ahead at India's soft power, we see a nation uniquely combining developing world challenges with developed world expertise. It's building world-class digital public infrastructure. During the pandemic, through initiatives like Vaccine Maitri and those massive Vande Bharat evacuation flights, it proved to be a critical global friend in need. Add in cutting-edge advancements in space technology and software engineering, and India is successfully exporting high-level solutions worldwide.
Which leaves us with this final, genuinely pivotal question. How will India's success at balancing its immense internal diversity with its bold external ambitions ultimately define the New World Order? Because if India can continue to convert its massive demographic potential into widespread inclusive prosperity, its rise won't just change the country. It will fundamentally and forever change our global future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this gave you a powerful new lens through which to view one of the world's most fascinating nations. Catch you next time.